Three inmates from the maximum security compound of the new Bilibid prisons in Muntinlupa City escaped early Monday morning. Based on the initial investigation by the Philippine National Police, the inmates jumped from the pathwalk into Gate 4 and shot one of the jail guards.
A bizarrely cheerful display amid the most miserable of conditions. In the 2 months since the president launched his drug offensive, almost 700,000 drug users have turned themselves in, living like this in prison. Better than no life at all.
They call it the Gulag, an immigration detention centre in the Philippines that has been making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Detainees claim the centre is squalid, rat-infested and overcrowded. 9 Britons themselves accused of breaking Filipino laws are currently detained in the centre. They allege corruption and bureaucracy in the centre has led to some detainees spending years waiting for their cases to be processed.
This isn't a scene from a dystopian movie. It's reality inside one of the most dangerous prisons in the Philippines. These facilities are dens of violence, overcrowding, corruption, and despair, where survival is a day-to-day struggle. In a country that as of 2023 ranks 3rd in the world for prison overcrowding, prisoners endure hellish conditions that often turn their sentences into death sentences. Tonight, we take you on an intense, gritty journey through these prisons. From the infamous new Bilibid Prison to the sweltering cells of Manila City Jail, the so-called Gulag of Bicutan Detention Center, the turbulent South Cotabato Jail, and other notorious lockups. Each stop reveals a new layer of brutality. Gang wars, extreme overcrowding, rampant disease, rampant corruption, and stories that will leave you stunned and heartbroken.
Yes, Carmina, good afternoon. 3 inmates from the maximum security compound of the new Bilibid prisons in Muntinlupa City escaped early Monday morning. Based on the initial investigation by the Philippine National Police, the inmates jumped from the pathwalk into Gate 4 and shot one of the jail guards. They then went through Gate 3 and also had a firefight with the jail guards before bolting out via Sitio Magdaong inside NBP reservation. The wounded jail guards were immediately brought to the nearest hospital. One of the inmates was wearing the penitentiary shirt and denim shorts, while the others were wearing black shirts and shorts. All the escapees were reportedly armed.
In order to maintain peace, there are 12 gang commanders who meet every week to sort out disputes. Today's meeting is crucial. On the heels of 2, there was a near riot just a few days ago, and an emergency session has been called. Gang meetings are usually held behind closed doors.
The remains of 60 inmates were interred this morning at the new Bilibid Prison Cemetery in Muntinlupa City. The 60 bodies are among the over 100 discovered at Eastern Funeral Homes following the authorities' search for June Villamor, the middleman who hired confessed gunman Joel Escorial to podcaster Percy Lapid. Dr. Maria Cecilia Villanueva of the Directorate for Health and Welfare Service said that another batch of 60 bodies out of the 176 bodies stored at the funeral parlor will be interred next week. Villanueva said the first to be interred are the inmates already in an advanced state of decomposition and those already mummified.
New Bilibid Prison, or NBP, stands as the largest penitentiary in the Philippines and one of the most dangerous. Built to hold just over 6,000 inmates, the facility is now bursting at the seams with nearly 30,000 prisoners crammed into filthy, overcrowded dormitories. That's 5 times its intended capacity, a human pressure cooker where gangs rule, violence is routine, and survival is never guaranteed. Inside, notorious prison gangs like the Sputnik and Commando groups have carved the compound into rival territories. NBP is less a correctional facility and more a war zone. In October 2020, tensions erupted into a full-scale riot. By morning, 9 inmates were dead, their blood staining the prison grounds. Just a month later, violence exploded again. 3 more prisoners passed away, 64 injured, and a wave of makeshift weapons left behind. Shanks, sharpened pipes, even metal darts. It was pure chaos, only subdued when elite SAF commandos stormed the complex to regain control. But it's not just the bloodshed that defines New Bilibid, it's the deep-rooted corruption. Over the years, the prison has earned a reputation for being a playground for powerful inmates. Drug lords have been caught living in air-conditioned villas, enjoying flat-screen TVs, smuggled liquor, and even operating drug labs within the compound. In 2014, a massive raid uncovered everything from jacuzzis to cash stashes, exposing the extent of the rot inside and humiliating prison officials. In response, authorities deployed special operations forces to tighten security. But even with the SAF patrolling the gates, the problems remain. In mid-2023, officials were forced to suspend new inmate admissions, desperate to slow the chaos. The government has even announced plans to shut New Bilibid down by 2028, relocating prisoners to new regional facilities, a move that speaks volumes about how ungovernable the prison has become. If New Bilibid is a battlefield, Manila City Jail is a human pressure cooker, boiling with heat, chaos, and desperation.
The overflow of prisoners occurred after the Philippines government declared its war on drug trafficking in 2016, leading to the arrests and confinement of a significant number of both dealers and users. They ended up here.
In the 2 months since the president launched his drug offensive, almost 700,000 drug users have turned themselves in, living like this in prison. Better than no life at all.
This facility was built to house 800 men. There are currently more than 4,000. As of today, they've had to stop taking in any more inmates. Duterte's war on drugs has driven them to breaking point.
Cells designed for 20 are home to 200. Makeshift platforms, the stone floor, staircases. Every inch of space, now someone's bed. Disease is rife and food is scarce. Less than £1 a day is spent on rations per prisoner. The vast majority are in for drug-related crimes.
Hidden in the heart of the capital, this crumbling, century-old structure, once known as Old Bilibid, was designed for just 1,000 inmates. Today, it's bursting with more than 6,000 detainees, packed in at 600% over capacity. In one recent count, 6,300 men were crammed into space meant for only 1,100. Here, space is survival. Prisoners sleep in shifts, rotating across cracked cement floors, stairwells, and even the open-air basketball court. By day, there's barely room to sit. One jail official described it best: a relentless contest for space. Hammocks made of old sheets hang from ceilings. Men rest wherever they can, under bunks, near toilets, even on stairs, while hundreds more stand shoulder to shoulder, waiting for their turn to lie down. The air inside is heavy with sweat, sewage, and despair. Even with regular cleaning, the stench is inescapable. Overcrowding fuels a breeding ground for disease, tuberculosis, skin infections, and stomach illnesses spread like wildfire in the heat and humidity. Inmates live like corpses standing shoulder to shoulder, said one human rights report. In some Manila jails, 3 to 5 inmates die each month from treatable conditions simply because care arrives too late or not at all. But sickness isn't the only threat. Groups like Mindanao City Jail, born within these very walls, and rivals like Sputnik operate openly. In September 2019, a fight between 2 detainees spiraled into a full-blown riot. By the end, 2 inmates were dead and 32 more wounded, slashed, beaten, and trampled in a frenzy of homemade blades and fists. Guards, outnumbered and outpowered, had to seal off the facility and call for backup just to restore control. Many saw the violence coming. With inmates this tightly packed, tension is always on a knife's edge. A single shove in the food line or a stray insult can set off a chain reaction, a dorm turned battleground in seconds. Even worse, there aren't enough guards to stop it. In 2018, the ratio was 1 guard for every 200 inmates, compared to the international standard of 1 to 7. As a result, prisoners have created their own hierarchy. Inside each cell block, leaders known as mayors or bosses manage order, settle disputes, and enforce rules, often with their own brand of justice. And if you have money, you can buy a better life, a few wooden planks to sleep on, a spot near a fan, or extra food. Those without? They sleep beside toilets, eat rancho, a thin, watery rice soup nicknamed pig slop, and wait, silently, for their day in court. A detainee once said, "We are living like animals in here." And he wasn't exaggerating. For many locked inside Manila City Jail, this isn't a correctional facility, it's a slow death sentence.
Now, they call it the Gulag, an immigration detention center in the Philippines that has been making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Detainees claim the center is squalid, rat-infested and overcrowded. 9 Britons themselves accused of breaking Filipino laws are currently detained in the center. They allege corruption and bureaucracy in the center has led to some detainees spending years waiting for their cases to be processed.
Rats and cockroaches, overcrowding and lack of basic facilities. Detainees at the Bicatan Detention Center may have been accused of breaking the law in the Philippines, but according to the country's constitution, they should be granted acceptable living standards, regardless of whether they are innocent or guilty.
The Philippine Immigration Bureau is investigating possible lapses of their personnel assigned at the Immigration Detention Facility in Cambagong Diwa in Bicutan, Taguig City. This after authorities recovered different gadgets and communication devices from inmates in a raid early Tuesday morning conducted by the National Capital Region Police Office and Intelligence Division personnel of the agency. The 3-hour inspection yielded contraband such as cigarettes, laptops, modems, and cash.
The Bureau of Immigration has relieved from its post the head of its immigration detention facility and 35 others following the discovery that detained foreign nationals have access to prohibited items, including gadgets. A total of 36, including the head, were relieved following a raid the other day, according to immigration.
Not every prison in the Philippines is filled with convicted criminals. Some of the most dangerous are places where no formal sentence has been handed down. Welcome to the Bureau of Immigration Detention Center in Bicutan, Taguig, more commonly known as Bicutan, a facility so grim, detainees themselves have dubbed it Manila's Gulag. This isn't just a holding center. It's a secretive, squalid labyrinth of neglect, abuse, and despair. Designed for just 140 people, Bicutan has crammed in over 400 detainees in recent years, nearly triple its intended capacity. These aren't just criminals. Many are visa overstayers, undocumented migrants, refugees, or asylum seekers, people waiting for paperwork to process, for a court to act, or simply to be sent home. But in Bicutan, that wait can last years, or even decades. Inside, conditions are nightmarish. Rats and cockroaches infest the cells, darting between rusted bars and sleeping bodies. The smell of human waste chokes the air, thanks to broken toilets and scarce showers. Medical care? Practically non-existent. Disease is spread unchecked, and those without money for medicine are left to suffer in silence. The overcrowding is so severe, detainees sleep in shifts, squeezed together in rows on cold concrete floors. There are no mattresses, only space, if you're lucky. What's worse? Many of these detainees have never been convicted of any crime. There's no right to bail, no guaranteed hearing, no timeline for release. One man has been held for over 10 years, waiting for deportation that never came. It's a system built not on justice, but on bureaucratic limbo. In 2019, a British detainee managed to smuggle out photos, tiny cage-like cells, men lying shoulder to shoulder, hollow-eyed and starved. Some claim they were denied food and water as punishment. Others reported fights, not gang wars like in Bilibid, but desperate scuffles over scraps of food or inches of sleeping space. The tropical heat turns the cells into ovens, and those without money to buy extra food grow thin, weak, and hopeless. That hopelessness is what truly makes Bicutan so dangerous. You're not just locked up, you're forgotten. Day after day, Week after week, the uncertainty eats at you. Some detainees have suffered mental breakdowns. Others didn't survive. Suicides have been reported as the crushing reality of indefinite detention breaks the human spirit. Then there's the corruption. Former detainees allege that guards and officials extort bribes for everything: extra meals, cleaner quarters, or simply to push a case forward. One Greek national revealed he was asked to pay thousands of pesos just to be released, a system where freedom has a price tag. Even foreign governments have raised alarms. In 2019, the British ambassador and EU diplomats toured the facility and left stunned. They described it as overcrowded and deprived, and urgently demanded answers. But Bicutan remains open, tucked away inside Camp Bagong Diwa, hidden from public view. For those trapped inside, it's not just a detention center. It's a slow-motion prison sentence with no judge, no jury, and no end in sight. It's where human rights hang by a thread, and every day becomes a fight to stay sane, survive, and not be forgotten. Deep in the southern island of Mindanao, you'll find the South Cotabato Provincial Jail, a chilling example of a prison system stretched past its breaking point. Located in Coronadal City, this jail was built to hold around 600 inmates. But during the peak of President Duterte's war on drugs, it swelled to over 2,000 prisoners, more than triple its capacity. Cells designed for a few dozen now cram in 70 to 100 men each, showboxes packed with bodies. In one cell, 69 inmates were crammed into 25 square meters. That's about the size of a studio apartment, split between nearly 70 men. Sleeping space is so tight, it's barely wider than a coffin. During the day, the tropical heat pushes indoor temperatures past 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. With little ventilation, the air turns thick and suffocating. Prisoners strip to their shorts, sweat pouring, as they fight for a spot near a broken fan or cracked window. Buckets serve as toilets. Water is rationed. Rashes, coughs, and skin infections spread through the dorms like wildfire. A documentary crew once said it took just minutes inside before they were gasping for air. Now imagine spending years in that environment. And yet, inside the madness, there's a fragile order, enforced by the inmates themselves. The most powerful prisoners are called El Presidente, often longtime gang members. They run the dorms, assign chores, and welcome new arrivals through bizarre initiations, shaving heads, assigning humiliating tasks, or forcing them into obedience. The guards, vastly outnumbered, rely on these inmate leaders to maintain control. But everything has a price. A spot near the door for a breath of air? That costs. A foam mat instead of cold concrete? That costs too. Those without money sleep near the toilets. Violence simmers just under the surface. A single argument can erupt into a brawl. One former inmate recalled sleeping with a shiv tucked under his pillow just in case. Perhaps the most devastating part? Most inmates haven't even been convicted. They're stuck in pre-trial detention, waiting years, sometimes a decade or more, just for a court date. In jail slang, they're called decaders. One young man, accused of a minor theft, had already served more time awaiting trial than the sentence he would have received. Depression and anxiety are everywhere. Some inmates form makeshift families to cope. Others slip into silence, slowly unraveling. One man, Ronnie, told a documentary crew, "Every day I tell myself, maybe tomorrow I'll get out. If I don't, I tell myself the same thing the next day." That kind of mental resilience is all that stands between some men and madness. From the chaotic cell blocks of Manila to the overcrowded dorms of Mindanao, the stories spilling out of the Philippines prison system paint a devastating portrait of a justice system in crisis. Across the country, jails and prisons operate at multiple times their intended capacity, a suffocating consequence of years of aggressive anti-crime campaigns and the notorious war on drugs. The flood of arrests overwhelmed a system already stretched thin, and now it's drowning. The result? Over 2/3 of inmates haven't even been convicted. They wait, sometimes for years, for a trial that may never come. And in that limbo, death in custody is 2.5 times more likely than it is on the outside. Basic necessities, food, medicine, security, are scarce. Guards are often too few, too tired, or too corrupt to maintain control. In many facilities, it's gangs and inmate bosses who run the show. And corruption? It touches every level. Guards accept bribes to look the other way. Officials have been caught selling early releases or trading good conduct credits for cash. The system doesn't just punish crime, it punishes poverty. Those who can't afford lawyers or bail end up buried the deepest, in the darkest corners. But there may be a shift on the horizon. In late 2023, Philippine authorities held a national decongestion summit, finally confronting the scale of the problem. The Chief Justice and other top officials made a public pledge: humane treatment and speedy justice must be a national priority. Proposals were introduced: faster trials, expanded parole, more rehabilitation, and new facilities. Just words for now, but words that suggest the suffering inside prison walls is no longer invisible. The United Nations and global human rights organizations are also applying pressure, calling the Philippines a cautionary tale of what happens when incarceration is treated as a cure-all. For now, tens of thousands of people remain locked inside cells never meant to hold them, trapped in a system that too often forgets they are still human. But if reform becomes reality, there may still be a way out of this nightmare.